We are going to be smoking a Boston butt or pork shoulder today on our Weber charcoal kettle. Now this is going to be easier and more rewarding than you think, and that's because you'll be yielding some pretty delicious results on a grill that only costs $100. First things first, you'll need to clean out all the charcoal and ash from any previous cooks. After you finish cleaning it out, replace the bottom grate and let's start setting up our coals. Now we're going to be using what is called the snake method today, which is really simple and helps us achieve a consistent cooking temperature for smoking while preventing us from having to constantly open the grill and add more coals. On this particular grill, the snake method has lasted up to 8 hours for me, and I'm using regular Kingsford charcoal briquettes with a ring of 2 coals on the bottom and on the top. This amount of charcoal paired with the vents slightly open usually keeps us between 220 and 240 degrees, which is right where we want to be. After placing your coals, let's get about 5 to 8 coals started in the chimney here. I'm using 2 cotton balls I dipped in vegetable oil here to get things going. After the coals are hot and no longer putting out dark smoke, pour them out at the beginning of your snake and close the grill. While the grill is getting hot, we're going to start trimming up our Boston butt. I picked this guy up at the grocery store for about 20 bucks. It's a 7.5 pound Boston butt. Now we're going to just spend some time trimming the fat cap off, not completely, but the majority of it because it's not going to render very well or take on any smoke. So we want to expose the meat underneath for seasoning. Next I'm going to rub some yellow mustard on it in order to help the rub bind to the meat. You can use olive oil or something else if you'd like. You're not going to taste any mustard after it's cooked. Time for the rub. I'm using Bull City Barbecue's pig rub today. You're going to want to completely cover the meat with it, but don't overdo it. After you've covered one side, let it sit for about 5 minutes. After waiting, do the same for the other side, and let it rest while we go and attend to the grill. Now that the coals are heating up, we're going to add our aluminum tray to the grill under where the meat is going to rest. We're going to fill this about halfway with boiling water. And we're using boiling water here so that the heat from the coals isn't wasted to heat up cold water. Next, we're going to add our wood for smoke. I'm using applewood chunks and hickory chips here. Place a chunk about 4 to 6 inches from the beginning of the snake. This will allow us some time for the meat to be introduced to the heat before it's introduced to the smoke. It will also buy you time for the grill to get up to about 225 degrees before you put the meat on. It might take some time to get up to 225 degrees, and that's okay. I think for this particular cook, it almost took 45 minutes. Once it's there, you can go ahead and put your meat on fat side down. Now it's time to wait. Continue to monitor the temperature inside the grill, and if it gets too hot or too cold, adjust the vents on the bottom of the kettle and the lid. After about 2.5 hours, I opened up the grill to check on it, and also mopped a little barbecue sauce on top. After about 5 hours, we should have achieved a good bark on the meat that we're looking for. We don't want to overdo it so that it's just a charred mess, so we're going to remove it from the grill, wrap it in foil, and place it in our oven, which is set to 300 degrees in order to finish it. I'm going to put a little barbecue sauce in this wrap, as well as a little shake of our rub from earlier on top before we wrap things up. You'll want to use a wider roll of heavy-duty aluminum foil. Wrap it twice to ensure no juices fall out. One thing I forgot to do just before putting it in the oven is inserting our meat thermometer, which is going to let us know when it's ready to come out. These wireless thermometers are a must-have if you're going to be cooking low and slow on a Weber kettle. I believe this one costs around $50 or $60. So we're going to place our meat in the oven after it's reached 300 degrees and wait for the internal temperature of the meat to reach 195. This took almost 2 hours to get to temperature. When it does, remove it from the oven and reveal what should undoubtedly smell amazing. We're going to cover it back up loosely and allow this to rest for a minimum of 30 minutes before we start pulling the meat to serve. You can pull the meat with 2 forks pretty easily. This one turned out great, was extremely tender, and had a lot of great flavor from the smoke and the rub. That's all there is to it. It took about 9 hours total with prep, and it was well worth it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Happy grilling!